tea. Get your tea. And let's learn about crows. Are you ready?
They've already lost. They just don't know it. Hit him from behind.
Oh my gosh. Did it just like poke and run?
Attack!
Oh,
Aim it for the enemy. We've lost
that's all it took for it to take over? Tricked him to attack the other side. Is that what he did? And then when he turned, he thought it was this guy.
Save it for the enemy. We've lost control of the command.
He caused internal turmoil.
Primates are notorious for their incredibly broken intelligence stat.
They're definitely intelligence build and work smarter, not harder kind of type.
Which grants them access to incredible advanced techniques such as tool use, coordinated team strategies, and even bartering and trade. But primates are not the only faction in the game with a high intelligence stat. Cetacean, cephalopod, and bird mains also commonly opt not to spec into powerful damage-dealing abilities, and instead invest into leveling up their brainpower skill tree. While this does seem like a risky choice, leaving the player more vulnerable in direct 1v1 combat, in actuality this often results in a much less risky playthrough, as the player's intelligence opens up more options for them to progress that don't require winning in combat. This is especially true of the bird faction, as their ability to fly already allows them to quickly escape most unfavorable combat encounters. Today, we're going to discuss one of the two main intelligence centers.
Also, I learned about it. The double eyelid is so cool. There are birds with double eyelid. The one inside is like a little more transparent, so they can blink or they can see while they're blinking almost.
Bird builds, the faction that contains crows, ravens, and magpies, the corvid. This video is going to focus mostly on crows as an example, but generally what I say in this video should apply to most corvids. First, let's discuss their stats,
I
as well
assume
as
the
the
answer
abilities
is
and
yes to
strategies that
this.
exemplify them. We'll begin with their stealth stat, which corvids aren't particularly excellent in. The most popular corvid skins are either jet black or piebald,
I like how we call that like the skin of the character.
which grant the user that strong of a stealth bonus. In fact, in snowy areas, jet black feathers are actually one of the least effective choices when trying to remain hidden. A dark appearance is most effective as camouflage at night, but crows and other corvids are not nocturnal builds, so they aren't really gaining this benefit from it. Now, granted, stealth typically isn't all that important for birds, given how agile and vigilant they are. Plenty of other high-tier avian builds, like for example parrots, are arguably some of the least stealthy birds in the game, and they do just fine. You could even argue that corvids are even less stealthy than their black feathers initially appear, as their iridescence actually makes them even easier to see for certain
They're too shiny. Oh no.
players, typically other birds. Ultimately, I think it's safe to say stealth is not an important part of their game plan, at least nowhere
I wonder also if it's because they can escape so fast because they can fly away.
near as important as it is for ambush predator builds like the owl. The main predators a crow needs to worry about are raptors, and because of the raptor's keen eyesight ability, it's unlikely having a higher stealth stat will make much of a difference anyway. The crow's
No, they're actually whacking with their wings. I think this is not a real picture.
and constitution stats are fairly average for a bird, which is to say not great. Birds have hollow bones and their feathers offer fairly little in terms of defense.
Did you just say birds have hollow bones? I don't know, that makes them sound weak.
Feathers do absorb some blunt force damage,
So
but
they don't have a shield build. They don't have much defense. That's why they can fly. Oh, it's like no density. It's hollow, lighter, and helps them to fly.
the slashing and piercing damage, it's nearly useless. And because of their hollow bones, which make them more vulnerable to blunt force damage, the benefit there kind of cancels out as well. Snakes, cats, raccoons, raptors, and dogs all have a high chance of taking a crow out in one hit, so they cannot let their guard down when interacting with any damage dealer builds.
Not a good build.
Given that their playstyle necessitates taking some risk, crow players definitely wish they had more room for error. Thankfully, their next stat makes it pretty easy to avoid damage. The crow's mobility is a little above average for a mid-sized bird, which is to say, excellent. Birds in general are just extremely agile, both on the ground and in the air, making them extremely hard to land an attack on if they see you coming.
That bird. Shimmy shimmy sad voice.
If they see you coming.
Get
Some
'em.
bird builds,
Protect your
like
baby.
geese and junglefowl, require significant startup in order to get airborne, meaning that they can't rely on their flight to escape danger
Oh
if
no.
the danger is already right in front of them.
They can't just like lift up to the air. So the fact that they can fly, yes, that's a plus, but not as much of a help if they're getting attacked suddenly without seeing it coming.
Can't rely on their flight to escape danger if the danger is already right in front of them. Crows are not one of these bird builds, and in contrast, the startup on their flight move has some shockingly broken frame data, and allows them to quickly and easily
They're
reposition
not getting
themselves in
attacked by
basically
a
any
rat.
direction in 3D space almost instantly. This makes their ability to dodge attacks one of the best in the entire game.
Imagine every time you move, you have to float your arms, right? Yeah, we'll become swole. Crows are actually, they can just get up real fast. Oh, so maybe it's just telling us about the other birds, how crows are built diff. They can just fly faster than these guys.
And makes what would normally be fairly dangerous positions, such as right next to a powerful predator, quite safe as long
They're
as the
so
Corvid
jumpy.
doesn't use any laggy moves. This synergizes well with the Corvid's combat moveset, as we'll discuss in a moment. Corvids are blessed with many high stats, but
Why do they
power-
always pluck on other birds' butt feather? It's just, they look like trolls. If you annoy them, they'll enrage and hopefully leave. Yeah, or make like bad combat decision, and then they gain advantage that way too.
is not one of them. Their ability to deal damage is one of the weakest in their weight class,
Oh,
as
they
their
do
only
a
attack
lot of
option
damage.
is a simple pecking strike.
That's
This
why
move
they,
has quick
they
startup
attack the
and very
butt.
little end lag, but its damage is egregiously
They
low.
do a little
Simply
poke.
attacking with this move will deal minimal damage to anything larger than an insect.
Their attack is more annoying than critical.
However, this doesn't mean a crow's attacks are useless. It just means they've got to be clever about how they use them. A well-placed peck can provoke an attack, and if you're able to move out of the way quick enough,
This one
the
is
enraged
crazy.
player will end up being forced to lash out at whoever just happens to be nearby, and create an opening
Ingy.
for the Corvid player to capture an objective, steal some loot, or escape trouble. It might seem like a jank strategy, but really this is the bread and butter of Corvid gameplay, and can lead to massive swings in advantage.
They're so
The
smart.
chance to afflict the enraged status effect scales with the user's intelligence stat. So the reason this strategy works so well is that the Corvid's intelligence stat is ridiculously high for a non-primate build. Corvids are tied with parrots for the highest intelligence stat in the entire avian family. And in addition to enabling the goading strike moveset,
They didn't even have to get into the fight. They just had to trigger this guy, so they just feel pain and just assume this guy caused it. They're
Corvid-
such trolls.
having high intelligence grants Corvids access to a lot of other powerful techniques too, including the ability to use tools. Tool use is one of the most notoriously powerful abilities in the entire game, and in crows this is no
Not
less
pose.
true. By using hook-shaped wooden sticks,
No way.
crows can score kills on grubs that are normally safe
But what
from
is that?
everything
What are you
except
trying to
for
get?
woodpecker
Oh,
attacks.
oh.
And given how many expensive niche perks woodpeckers need to spec into in order to perform these sorts
Cranial cushion. Chisel weak. Jackhammer frequency. Sawdust protection eyelid. Vertical bracing feet. Oh yeah, this is cool. Shock absorbing muscle. Stabilization tail. Nostril filtration system. Grappling tongue.
of drilling attacks, the ability to bypass all of that investment while still gaining the same rewards is a huge boon
Wow.
to the crows. But high intelligence has far more benefits than just allowing crows to copy the success of hyper-specialized builds.
That is crazy.
All of
This
that
one is
investment while still
impressive, but
gaining the same
still.
rewards
But this one is crazy. They understood if you put another matter into the water will rise and they can pick up the reward.
and crows to copy
They
the success of
dropped it in.
hyper-specialized builds.
May the water
Arguably,
to
the most
rise.
important benefit is team tactics. This is what allows baboons to fight off lions, what allows
That's
ants to
crazy
bring down
smart.
tarantulas, and what allows wolves to prey upon bison. When crows work together, they can capture territory and control points of interest that
No
would
way.
otherwise be helpless to defend. They can even rescue each other from what would otherwise
Rescue
be
each other.
guaranteed lethal attacks,
Save
using
your
a
brother.
tactic called mobbing.
Yeah.
Mobbing is a strategy most
Mob.
commonly seen in
Oh,
birds, consisting
they
of bombarding a
surrounded it.
single target with a barrage of both physical and
Oh my
sonic attacks. On their own, these would be easy to shrug off, but when you're getting pecked at and screeched at from all directions at once, it inflicts heavy physical and
They're-
psychic damage.
Pack animals. They have small damage if they work together and take turns. That will add up. I'm a bit terrified to be surrounded by them.
This is what allows social corvids, like magpies and crows, to successfully chase away predators several times their size. Ravens, on the
makes
other hand,
sense.
tend not to really need the help, as they're large enough to handle most opponents one-on-one.
I didn't know
But if-
ravens are bigger. I thought ravens are smaller than crows.
Team up in order to lock down a good source of carrion. Alternatively, they may even ally themselves with wolf players, leading them to a carcass and letting them do the work fighting off their competition
No way.
before sharing in the rewards. Anyway, that's a basic
No.
overview of the corvid
They
build.
work with the wolves. They also domesticate wolves into dogs. They're basically human.
Now let's talk about their matchups. The corvid matchup chart is heavily dependent on how effective their goading strike and mobbing techniques are against a given target.
Is that a bunny?
Luckily, because of how high the corvid's intelligence stat is, the list
No
of targets
way.
goading strike works against
No
is
way!
quite long.
This is
It
too
is best
smart!
Strike works against is quite long. It is best against builds with lower intelligence stats. Things like vultures, things like reptiles, and things like rodents. What's more, this technique even works on one of the corvid's two primary threats, feline builds. Deadly as cats are, they're often quite reactive and easily aggroed, so goading strike is the perfect tool to redirect their
They
ferocity.
don't have patience.
This move is admittedly less effective against the corvid's other main concern, raptors. However, thankfully the mobbing technique is quite effective against
Is he sliding
raptors,
down?
so for both of their main threats, the crow players have options. The only builds these techniques aren't that effective against are other high intelligence builds, such as monkeys and parrots. Because of their extremely strong social bonding and top-tier intelligence stats,
So cool.
parrots are highly resistant to psychic damage and do not turn on each other
so
easily.
cute.
In fact, when pestered by a corvid, they are likely to defend each other fiercely using their own, more powerful beaks and louder shrieks.
Parrots have stronger beaks than the crows. But I guess maybe like the shape of it, it goes down like this, so it pinches more.
They're fairly evenly matched, so it tends to just come down to size. But in groups, corvids tend to have difficulty forcing parrots away from an objective. As for monkeys, their higher HP allows them to more easily ignore the pecking attacks of a crow. And they're used to getting their tails tugged all the time by their own party members, so a crow doing it is unlikely to provoke a punishable response.
No, baby.
Crows and parrots have an interesting dynamic. I've said in previous videos that I believe parrots to be the more viable build. They have higher
Okay.
dexterity with their beaks, their sonic shriek attack is incredibly effective, they're more social, and arguably more intelligent.
And Sonic Shriek attack is so funny. I like it how he describes these.
And yet, of the two most intelligent bird builds, there's no denying that in the city biome, corvids are much more successful. I think the reason for this is that even though parrots are indeed more powerful on their own, and are better at using most tools than crows are better at using the most important tool, other players. From provoking attacks and redirecting aggression, to using passing vehicles to deal damage for them and unlock high-value loot, corvids are the best of the best when it comes to using other build strengths to cover for their own shortcomings.
See, they
Dominance is
adopted the dog. Dog has joined the party.
any indication, co-opting the strengths of less intelligent builds is one of the strongest strategies you can possibly execute in the game.
Isn't this
And it-
such a cool life? Somewhere in the world, there are people who has a pet horse and a pet hawk, and they just go to work like this.
And it's for this reason that corvids sit proudly in S tier.
They're pet
Speaking
owners.
of builds with a
so
high
they're
success rate
S2.
within the city biome, another creature that thrives in cities is the centipede. With their quick, twitchy movement and
No.
flat shape, they have no trouble weaving through all of the nooks and crannies
Oh, I
common
don't
in
wanna
urban
see
environments. This is the subject of my next video, which will be out on YouTube in a month or so. However,
Did you
if you'd
guys
like to watch
watch
that video
this?
right now, you can access it a month in advance on Nebula, the sponsor of today's
Nebula?
video. Now, many of you have heard me talk about Nebula before. It's the creator-owned platform with no ads, no algorithm, no clickbait, and phenomenal content. But this time is different. Nebula just underwent a massive overhaul to dramatically improve its UI, to make Nebula's premium content easier to find, and its creator
These
list
things
easier
give
to
me
sort through.
nightmares.
We've now got categories you can
I
quickly
don't
swipe
want to
through to get
learn
to the sorts
about
of
them.
things
I
you're
don't want to
interested
learn
in.
how OP
Hey, look,
they are.
it's the science
And I'll,
category.
if I ever
And
see
who's
them,
on top?
I'll
That's
just
right,
panic
it's my
even
original
more.
series, Let's Play Outside, an educational show spotlighting the individual lives of interesting animals, done in the style of a Let's Play live stream. One of the episodes I'm most proud of features the mantispid, a fascinating insect that has the characteristics of both a wasp and a mantis. How does it fare against other common garden insects? Well, you'll just have to check it out to see. I doubt many of you know this exists. It has been sort of hard to find on Nebula before, despite being exclusive to the platform. But now I really hope you give it a watch. One of the
That
other new
monkey
categories on Nebula
so
is
mean.
news,
And my
which I find really
internet's not
helpful given how complicated
loading up
geopolitics tends
quickly.
to be lately. Specifically, they have this new current events show called The War Room, which is
Monkey
made by the same
gaming.
talented people behind real-life lore and modern conflicts. Much like how the monkey's intelligence helps it avoid being used as a pawn in the crow's plan, knowledge about the defining geopolitics of our time is important to know about so that you are not provoked into a battle that you don't understand.
I thought we
But
were
on a
back
more
to the
fun
video.
note, one show I've been really enjoying is Archaeology Quest, a show where scientists compete to see who can master the art of Paleolithic survival first.
Oh, that's cool.
If this all sounds
I
good
would
to you,
not
you can sign up to
survive.
Nebula using my link at nebula.tv/TierZoo, or use the link below, which supports
But
me
that's a
directly
fun-
and gets you
fun
all
way
this
to
amazing
learn.
content for 40%
Boy
off if
Scout
you choose the
skill.
annual plan, which adds up to as little as $2.50 a month. Thank you all so much for watching, thanks again to Nebula for sponsoring this video, and as always, good luck out there.
Get them coins. Oh, that was the end of it. Oh, I thought it was in the middle of it. Okay, so crows are OP because they're smart, they team up, they use tools, they adopt pets. Good video. Now when I see crows, I'll respect them even more.